18. An important day for grandfather. Heidi stood under the trees waiting for her grandfather to go down the mountains with her. He was going to fetch her trunk from Dursley while she visited Granny. The day was crisp and clear, and Heidi tried to take it all in, the mountains, the fir tree, and the wonderful Alpine air. Soon grandfather was ready, and they walked down the mountain together. Granny was overjoyed to see Heidi again, and she told her how much she had enjoyed the soft white bread from the city. Heidi wished that she had enough rolls so that Granny would never eat hard bread again. Then she remembered the money that Mr. Sesame had given her. A beaming smile spread across Heidi's face. She would give the money to Peter so that every day he could bring Granny a fresh white roll from the city. Of course, Granny protested that she heard this idea. She didn't want Heidi to spend her money on rolls, but when she saw how excited the child was, she agreed. To entertain the old woman, Heidi reached out on the shelf and brought down a book of hymns. Now that she had learned to read, she could read Granny her favorite hymns. This made the old woman so happy that she could hardly speak. So for the rest of the day, Heidi chatted with Granny and read her hymns from the old book. Soon grandfather came and tapped on the window to tell Heidi it was time to go home. On the way back the mountains, Heidi had so much to tell grandfather that she could talk until they reached the hut. She told grandfather about her idea for using the money Mr. Sesame had given her. Grandfather smiled when she saw how generous and kind-hearted Heidi was. That evening at dinner, as Heidi chatted about her life in the city and how kind everyone had been to her, a change came over grandfather. For the first time in a very long while, he saw the goodness in other people, and he saw the goodness through Heidi's eyes. He realized what a gift this child was, and that his life was bitterless, was not good for him, and certainly not good for Heidi. That night, Uncle Alves had an important decision. He decided to return to a life that included other people. The next day was Sunday, and grandfather told Heidi to get dressed in the clothes Clara had given her. Then he took his old blue suit out of the closet and shined the old brass button, and even put on a hat. Then together, grandfather and Heidi walked down the mountain and onto the church in the village. The people of Durfee were already in church, and singing had started. As Heidi and Uncle Alves went in and sat down in the back of the back, the hymns was hardly over before the people were nudging one another and whispering that Uncle Alves was in church. Everyone kept turning around to stare at the old man with the little girl. When the service was over, grandfather took Heidi's hand and they went to see the pastor together. They were welcomed into the house by a kind man, and grandfather first apologized for his behavior so many months ago when the pastor has come to ask him to send Heidi to school. After a long talk, the two men shook hands, and Uncle Help agrees to move to the village during the winter so Heidi could attend school. As Uncle Alp stood in the doorway, shaking the pastor's hand, the people of the village crowded around and offered their best wishes to the old man, Heidi. They could see that something had changed Uncle Alves, and when they heard about that, he planned to return to Durfleet to visit among them. They all wished him well and offered to help with the move. When at last Hattie started for home, many people went part of the way and when they said goodbye, they asked him to visit in their home before long. As he watched them go, Hattie saw such a kind light in his eyes that she said, "Grandfather, you look so different, so peaceful. I never seen you look this way before." Grandfather smiled and explained that he was happier than he had in a very long time. He had finally given up the bitterness that he had made him a lonely man without friends or neighbors. Now, thanks to Hattie, that was all over. He had begun a new life. When they returned Peter's cottage, Grandfather went in. "Good day, Granny," he said. "I can see I must get busy with some more repairs before the autumn winds began to blow." "Goodness me, is it Uncle Alves?" cried the old woman. "What a fine surprise. Now I can thank you in person for all you've done for us." She held out her hand, which trembled a little, and shook it heartily. At last, the two people Hattie loved most were friends.